Hey folks, welcome to Spreading the Baseball News with Larry. This is this week's edition. Before I talk about baseball in Taiwan, just a little bit more about baseball here in North America. It seems that, and ignoring the health issue and assuming that the health conditions in the United States continue to improve, as they seem to be improving. In spite of that, it seems that Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association have still not reached an agreement on how to resume that season, particularly how long that season would be. You may recall that I mentioned that the teams were considering an 81-game season. Now there's talk about just having a 50-game season. And again, there becomes an issue of money, or Spike Lee once said, money, money, money. Both sides seem to be rather greedy. And given that today we're entering the second week of June, if we want to resume the season in July, players have to start training, go back to spring training. So I would believe it's questionable now whether we get an 81-game season, and talk about 50-game season remains to be seen. And both sides, as I said, seem to be rather opposite in their positions. But going on to something better, which is baseball in Taiwan. We'll talk about that briefly this week. And the past week was an excellent week for the China Trust Brothers. Won a number of games. They continue to hit. One of the things that I've commented on before is the hitting in Taiwan in the Chinese Professional Baseball League. And I think it's in part, and I've commented before about the strike zone, I don't think that the umpiring is so erratic, so inconsistent. What I do think what's consistent about it is that it seems to be as I've said, a hitter strike zone. The strike zone is not expansive, and in fact, I think many of the home-plate umpires have been squeezing the pitchers. And when that happens, then it leads to the hitting that we see in the league. So a couple of comments. I'll talk about a few players that I'm interested in the China Trust Brothers. And I'm going to focus on some of the young players. I could talk about number 7 center fielder for China Trust, Zhang Zhihao, who's certainly a professional baseball player. He's had a good career, a good athlete, good center fielder, good hitter. But I really was more inclined to focus on some of the younger players. And the first player that comes to mind is shortstop for China Trust, number 90, Chiang Kun-Yu. And the first thing about him that I would say is he's young. In fact, he's not even 20. His birthday is, interestingly enough, on July 4th. So he will turn 20 next month. And so he's a teenager playing against a bunch of men. So I think we have to look at his performance, take it in stride, in that, again, he's a kid. Having said that, he seems to be a hitter, and I'll talk about his hitting in a second as well. But the other thing that struck me besides his youth is he's little. And when I first saw him, first player that came to mind, immediately thought of is Jose Altuve. And what a great comparison to make. If Chiang Kun-Yu could have a career like Jose Altuve, even if on occasion Altuve knows what pitch is coming, that is a great career. And I'm certainly an admirer of Altuve because he's a little guy. Another little guy who I'm an admirer of, and not saying that Chiang Kun-Yu is like him, but is Mookie Betts. Those are two great players who are not big men. And I would say that if Jose Altuve or Mookie Betts or Chiang Kun-Yu was walking down the streets in New York on Fifth Avenue or in Taipei on Nanjing Lu, and you didn't know them, you didn't know their face, you would not identify them as athletes. Again, they're not big men, and they excel in a big man sport. So a little bit more about Chiang Kun-Yu is, again, he shows that he's a hitter. He's hitting, I think, about 360. Not a lot of power yet, but again, as he matures, learns the league, could see an increase in home runs, just as the case with Mookie Betts or Jose Altuve. Mostly singles, doubles hitter. So he's showing things at the plate. He does seem to hold his bat on his shoulder a little bit. But again, each player has their own particular stance. And as a shortstop, I've seen that he can go deep in the hole. Seems to have decent range. Whether he has the arm really all the time to make those throws from deep and short remains to be seen. But again, he looks like a player that has a lot of potential. Hopefully continues to grow in the Chinese Professional Baseball League. And who knows, maybe there are opportunities for him outside of Taiwan, either in Japan or North America. Another player who I haven't really watched much of, but seems to have potential, not the same hitter. Of course, the catcher is Gao Yujie, number 65, but I haven't seen enough of him to really make any comments. So just want to mention also in passing a couple of pitchers, one starting pitcher and one relief pitcher for the Brothers. Again, these are young players, and the starting pitcher is number 64 that I've seen is Huang En-Sih. He seems to be, I think I read that he had some arm problems, had surgery last year, so making a comeback. A little bit older, I think he's maybe 24, 25, and seems to have a good fastball. I see he's got a lot of Ks, a lot of strikeouts, decent control. And one thing, by the way, I think I've noticed is certainly true of North America as well, but Taiwanese pitchers don't like to throw inside. And with Huang's stuff, he might want to occasionally brush a batter back, especially with all the hitting that's going on. And the other player that I've noticed, a relief pitcher, is number 94, Wu Junwei. He's interesting. He seems to have a bit of a funky delivery, and at this point I think it's true of all relief pitchers when they come in to a game. Even if there are no runners on base, they pitch out of their stretch, not out of full windup. Without runners on base, he seems to have a little hesitation in delivery, which probably throws the batter's timing off. He obviously, with a runner on base, he can't have that same hesitation. I think they would be stealing on him. His ball, he seems to have again, not just a live ball arm, but he seems to have a lot of stuff and seems to have a decent repertoire of pitchers. All right. So those are a couple of the players that I've watched on China Trust Brothers over the season. Next week, probably talk about some players on the Unilions and that I think are worth watching. So again, thanks for watching this week. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. 谢谢大家收看我的希望你们有什么意见请你留言下个星期见再会